good day and welcome. My name's Grantley, and this is the Straight Up TV show with myself, Grantley. It's good to have your company today. My guest on the programme was born in Balham, South London, and at the age of 3, due to some things that happened with his parents, they decided to move to East Midlands, to the city of Nottingham. Can you believe that? Just a few years later, they ended up migrating to Jamaica, spending a good amount of time there, and then returning back to the UK, back to Nottingham, where he resides right now. He has been a Christian rapper for a good amount of time, but during that period of time, there were challenges um, as a shall we say, an independent artist. All of the independent artists is out there will understand what I mean by the challenges. Usually, this is financially, which means not unless you've got stacks of money hidden under the mattress, you can only make a certain amount of music before it all kind of tapers off. Not being signed to a huge label. That was the case for my guest on today's program, who goes under the name now as David Ellis. Hello, David. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. Good to be here and good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So, David, back in the day, you used to be known as Prodigal Son, now the David Ellis. And
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is we'll start with a little bit more background. I tried to give some background, but kind of, mumbled my way through there. David, from what I can gather, right, you went through quite a lot as a youngster, right? But,
Mhm.
thanks be to God, you're here today. Were you always like? Did you come from a Christian background, or give us the breakdown?
Yeah, so when we were younger, my brother and I had to go to church. We didn't have a choice in the matter. And I really didn't enjoy it at all, actually, because I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the preacher was talking about. Sunday school was just long. I just wanted my rice and peas and play football with my mates. That's all I wanted to do. So when we had an opportunity not to go to church, I grabbed onto that with both hands, and so I didn't. And so I got involved with a lot of things that perhaps I shouldn't have, and spoke to a lot of things that perhaps I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine became a Christian and came and saw me and spoke to me about Jesus. And I decided to recommit my life, if you will, or really give it to him for the first time. And that's really the background in terms of how my faith really started to come alive.
And what age was you when that happened?
I was 19.
Okay.
So
Okay.
only like 3 years ago.
And between yeah, I know. Between 19 and you entering into music ministry, what was the gap?
Oh, it was really quick actually. So I was already writing music before I became a Christian, and and I remember at the time there wasn't a lot of like really good like gospel rap music at the time. There were a few guys in the States that were doing a few things, but it never really floated my boat. And so a really good friend of mine said to me, "Well, why don't you try and write the music that you would like to hear?" And I kind of like took that challenge with both hands and was like, absolutely. So it was probably like the year after I became a Christian, I started writing gospel rap music.
Yeah, and if memory serves, um, you which wasn't it wasn't anything unusual because back in the day, what UK artists tend to do was they liked a secular song and they made their version of it. You did that as
Yeah,
well, right? What did you do?
I did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did that a couple of times, but one of the most memorable ones was to a track called "Bring It Back" by I think it was Fat Joe and a few other people. Um, and my take, for those the guys that are watching or listening that are of a certain age, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I put my spin on it, and it was hip hop's kind of gone astray. and it's up for us to bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. And that did really well, amongst a lot of DJs. You being one of them that really kind of like highlighted that track back in the day. So, that's
Latched
what a lot
onto
of
it.
guys were doing back then.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
latched onto it, and I latched
Yeah,
onto
yeah,
it, because of the lyrical content, but also, it was a track that was doing well anyway in the world. And I
yeah.
think at that time, we were residents at the straight up at the Click Club. And so it was
Mm,
the done thing to play a track like that because people knew the track from radio, and to hear it in a
mm.
Christian format was like, wow, absolutely. I think you got a few bookings out of that one, David, right?
I think I did. I think I did.
Yeah, it did well. It did well. So you took a break. Tell us about that
Yeah,
break. And there was a name change that went along with that, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what happened really is I was doing that for maybe like where were we? Maybe about 7 years, and
Yeah,
it became really difficult to try and keep, studio time, production time. At that time it was really about CDs, getting CDs pressed, and all of that, and it
right.
became really, really costly to do that. And also, as well, I went through a difficult period in my previous marriage, which led to divorce, where my then wife was unfaithful, and so it just felt like at that time I haven't got any capacity for this. Plus, I can't afford to do it. So I kind of put the name and the gift down for a period of time. Fast forward maybe 7 years on from there, I'm remarried, I have children, and I'm in a different way. I'm in a different place in terms of my life. And
Yeah,
I decided to pick the mic up again. But what happened is I went through a little bit of a spiritual transition whereby I was talking to someone recently about this, and I've been a Christian now for 30 years. But the reality is I've been a disciple of Jesus for probably about 8 of those 30, the last 8 years. And what I mean by that is over the last 8 years is when I decided that I'm going to authentically and passionately pursue Jesus, and not just with the platitudes and the things that we say on a Sunday morning, but with every aspect of my life. I'm going to be devout and follow Him wholeheartedly. And during that transition, when picking up the microphone again, I realized that God had created me to be authentic, and who I am is Dave Ellis, and what my whole transition was about is being the Dave Ellis that God had created me to be, not the prodigal son, not any other name that I could come up with that sounded cool or anything like that. Yeah, so I went for a little bit of a break. There were a number of things that happened in my life, significant things. I went through a divorce. My wife was unfaithful, and that took a lot of processing. And also, as well, it was quite costly to continue doing music at that time, to press CDs, studio time, all of that thing. All of that just became really, really difficult to try and
yeah,
continue, especially when you're going through a difficult time or a difficult season. So I put the microphone down for probably about 7 years, and then during that time, God did a lot of stuff, remarried, have children. And I'm in a different place spiritually as well, because during that time, I went through a spiritual transition. In that, I was saying to someone recently that I've been a Christian for 30 years, that I've really started to passionately pursue Jesus. And that's when I realized that I needed to be authentically me. I couldn't try and be someone else because that's not who God created me to be. And so the name change now is I am being, or I'm striving to be, the Dave Ellis that God intended me to be all along. And that's where the transition came from prodigal son to the Dave Ellis.
absolutely stunning. In terms of that realness, I think it's real, sort of like showing that God has given you more grace to come to this realization.
Yeah.
So now the Dave Ellis has brought out this wonderful album. Um, not drowning, not waving, but not drown. Dave, help me out here, please.
Not waving but drowning.
Not waving, but drowning. So here's the thing. It's an album that I just absolutely love
Oh, thank
because of how because we go back to like the late 90s, right? And I've always admired that you are such a fantastic storyteller, and nothing has changed in that aspect. There are a couple of tracks on the album that has really captivated me. The one that I've been playing like there's no tomorrow is the Naked Truth.
you. Yeah.
The storyline in that song is just amazing. So for those who haven't heard it just yet, and let me just address the camera first of all, go and get this album. And the first track that you need to play is a track called Naked Truth. David, break it down for us. What is the song all about?
Okay. So, of course, Jesus always told stories and in the form of parables. And in many respects, the naked truth is a little bit like that. And what the story is, just to give you, to set the scene, if you like, it talks about a time before time existed and where truth, who is referred to as a woman, and lies, referred to as a man, they weren't friends, they were associates. And lies approaches truth and say, let's go for a walk, and they do. And this is where truth makes her grand debut. She's beautifully adorned, she looks amazing. All the people come out of their houses and they're running, and they're paying all attention to truth. And lies is on the sidelines watching everything that's happened. And so he has a plan. And so the walk takes them to a nice warm lake, and he suggests, let's go for a swim. And they do. Skeptical, truth gets in the water, and then out of nowhere, lies jumps out of the water and steals truth's clothes and wears them and walks around pretending to be the truth. And all the people are applauding lies that's dressed in truth's clothes, thinking that he is the truth. And the moral of the story is that the naked truth is always better than a well-dressed lie. And I think that the idea and the premise of the song really, Grantley, is that I think we live in a society where that is very much a reality, where if we want to find the truth, it's not often that you can take it on face value. You have to dig a little bit deeper to find that
Just
truth.
that little bit deeper, yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely.
So, not only is the song being played in a Christian setting in terms of radio, but mainstream has picked up on this. A well-known mainstream radio station has picked up on this. Um, how did that happen? Did you just blitz everywhere and it just scattergun effect and it landed on somebody's desk? And how did it happen?
Yeah, so they have something called introducing, and that usually works
Aha!
on a local level. You see, because wherever you are locally, you send your music to them and they play it on their local radio stations. But for some
Right.
reason, the Naked Truth got picked up on the national station, and they contacted me to say that they really like the track and that they're going to play it on their show. So, other than God, I'm not sure how it made its way there, but it made its way
God,
there.
God
And I
is
picked
like,
it.
yeah. Well, let's blame God, shall we? Let's blame it on God.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start right there. So it got played nationally, and it's still being played. We're playing it on my show, and I'm hoping that everybody else has jumped in and is doing the same. What's the report so far? How's the album doing?
Oh, it's doing amazingly well. I'm incredibly blessed and privileged that at the age that I am, that people are still wanting to listen to my music, and that's a real that's a real blessing to me.
That is a
Um,
blessing.
Absolutely. And like you said at the very beginning, the title, Not Waving But Drowning, is a depiction of what I perceive is happening with a lot of people in society today. That especially with social media, we're really good at putting on filters to make it look like we're doing a great job waving and everything is fine. But when the
Yeah,
camera's off and when we're not in front of the camera, we're actually
yeah.
drowning. And that the whole album is really on that premise. And so a lot of people have picked up on that and have identified that they find themselves in that situation as well. And so that is a real blessing to me that God is able to use what He's placed in my heart to bless other people.
Not Waving but Drowning is a fantastic album. Your storytelling is just absolutely on point.
Thank
Track
you.
number 7, Mary Turner.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know too much about Mary Turner. Now, you tell a story of this person called
Yeah.
Turner.
Yeah.
Tell me, it's not something that you made up. This is like reality, right?
It's a real story. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Who is she?
So sorry, who is she?
Who is she?
Yes. Yeah. So when George Floyd happened a few years ago, I set myself to do a lot of reading and discovering about history, about Black history in particular. And I read a number of books and educated myself, actually. And one of the stories that I came across was the story of Mary Turner, which happened in the early 1900s. And Grantley, the truth be known that when I've read that song, we did a listening party to the album actually a month before it was released. And we had a few people around that listened to the album for the first time. And when I explained where the story came from, I literally cried tears because the story, and I don't want to give too much away in this interview because I'd really encourage the listeners and those that are watching to go and listen to the story for yourself. Black, white, whatever ethnicity you are, this is world history that we all need to be familiar with. But when I read the story and what was done to Mary Turner, it felt the reason why it caused me to cry. It had such a visceral response because it feels like that Mary Turner is my mother. It feels like she's my mum, and it
Yes.
feels like, and even when I tell the story, it chokes me because I never met the woman in my life, but it feels like that is my mum. And through research, I understand that what I'm processing is actually generational trauma. This is trauma that has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And the reason
Yeah.
why I feel the way that I do, and other people too, is because this is a trauma that has been passed on from one generation to the next. And so for me and for a number of people that have heard it, this is healing. And it's not an easy listen. It's quite graphic in what's described in terms of what
Yeah.
happened to Mary Turner. But in order for us to really heal, we have to really get to grips and grapple with the pain of what's actually gone before. And that's what brings true healing. And that's really the premise behind Mary Turner.
You give a you give a warning before you actually get into the song, but quite graciously you still encourage people to listen to the song.
Yeah,
My goodness, when I listened to your delivery and your portrayal, I was like, my goodness, if this really happened, she suffered.
yeah,
She suffered terribly.
yeah,
But you managed to capture that in such a way that was just, you told the story and it was a real story that was believable anyway.
yeah.
And I really do applaud you for
Thank
that.
you.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
Well
And
done.
if I may say as well, just on the back of that as well, Mary Turner, of course, was a black woman, and her husband Hayes Turner also was lynched at that time. But I think it's really
Yes.
important to state that this isn't Mary Turner isn't just for black people; it's for white people too. And as I say in the chorus, it's not to proportion blame, but it's really to bring people, white people, into the generational trauma that many black people are living with today as well. And it's to bring people in, not to point fingers and not to judge anyone. That is not the heart of it at all, but really to highlight the pain which a lot of black people are living with. And the truth be known, I think that many black people are living with generational trauma and they don't even know they're living with it themselves. And something can happen in life which triggers a behavior in them and they don't even know where it comes from. And it's likely to be that generational trauma that their parents and that their parents have witnessed, which has been passed on to generations. And here we
Yeah.
are.
David, I admire you for so many different reasons. I just want to share a little bit about um, the other side of what you do because, yes, you are a recording artist and a great one, as your latest project will depict. For anyone that haven't heard of you, they need to go get the album. It's absolutely brilliant. And don't let the fact that it's rap music put you off because some people just think rap, nah, that's not my thing. I'm into this or that. David, during that period of time between the late 90s and onwards, when you took that so-called break, you didn't just stop doing like everything. You became a pastor.
That's right.
Not just a pastor. Tell us the breakdown of all of the things that you do and what led you to that route, as it were.
Yeah. So I'm one of many pastors in a large church in Nottingham, and I oversee and lead a number of ministries within that church. From prison ministry, we work with ex-offenders in the prison and outside of the prison. We house ex-offenders. We have
Oh wow. Okay.
a housing ministry called Step Forward Housing, where we house people that are on the margins within society. So we have a house specifically for ex offenders. We have another house for guys leaving rehab. We have a house for single mothers, and we have a house for families that have been marginalized. And this ministry is growing. I work with the homeless within the city. Fostering and adoption is something else that I oversee. We have a ministry that helps people into employment and education, and also another ministry which helps people that are in debt and help them manage their finances as well. There's a few more, but probably be talking for far too long if I was to go through them all. But they're
David,
just
honestly, I'm just astounded at all of the things you've just mentioned. And it makes me wonder, how did you ever find time to write the lyrics for your album? You know, tell us, how do you manage to juggle all of this?
Yeah. I think, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of this discipleship journey that I'm on and being authentic, is that a lot of the things that I see in my work, I process with the Holy Spirit. I spend time with God, and a lot of that stuff I think about and ponder deeply in my heart, of course, where the Holy Spirit lives. And so, as a part of that journey, for me to cathartically express through music and writing is a way of putting out there what I feel those conversations with the Holy Spirit is on the inside. Is a way of
Yes,
putting it out there, and so it forms a natural part of my rhythm, if you like, in terms of how I write.
absolutely. I just think to myself, the people that worship at your church, calling you Pastor David, you must be such an inspiration to them because I mean, not only are you Pastor David, but you're Pastor David the rapper as well. How cool is that?
Yeah, they just need to tell my kids, because my kids don't think it's that cool.
They don't think you're that cool. All
Well, they
right, so
don't.
look, the album's been out since the 5th of August, if I remember rightly. And I would imagine that it's available like all download streaming sites, right?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, all the popular ones.
Right. Okay. Great. And I would imagine this is the time where you're getting ready to promote the album and do lots of events. Tell us about anything that's coming up. Is there anything that you can share with us?
Uh, yes, I can. This is exclusive. This is hot off the press. Um, so on my album, there's a track which I'm sure you will have heard called "Superheroes," which is about domestic violence from
What's
a
it called
child.
again? Tell us what it's
Su-
called.
Superheroes,
One more time. Give us that again.
superheroes,
Right.
and that
One more time because you're cutting out. So give us track number.
okay. So I believe it's track number. I can't remember. I think it's track number six. No, eight or nine. and it's called
Black on Black, and then you got Superheroes number
Super,
9.
number 9,
Superheroes, yeah?
Superheroes. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and Superheroes is about domestic violence from a child's perspective. Now, when I grew up, I witnessed domestic violence in my home, and so it's a semi-biographical song in terms of the perspective that I'm writing from. But I am partnering with a domestic abuse charity, which is quite well known, called Juno, and we're working in partnership to produce a music video which is going to be launched later this year in collaboration with Juno for their 16 days of raising awareness in November. So I'm really excited about that. It's something that I'm passionate about. And as a church, this is something that we're passionate about as well, because, I really feel like it's incredibly naive of us to feel that domestic abuse or violence doesn't happen within our church community. And because we often put a good face on things and we present as though things are really well, we present as though we're waving, not drowning. As I say, it's naive to think that these things don't happen within our church communities. And so, as a church, this is something that we're getting behind, but also nationally, locally, and nationally, this is something that we're going to be pushing into as well. So, that's something that's coming up. And I think early next year, we're going to do a little bit of, well, we're definitely going to do a launch of the album live. And who knows, we may even come down south. Who knows?
It'd be nice for you to come down south and see us. It's been a while. David, for now, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's been a little glitchy on the line, and I do apologise for that. Tell us how people can get hold of you on socials before you head out.
Sure. So you can find me on social media everywhere at the Dave Ellis, as it says on the screen. It's actually Dave. TheDaveEllis. The Dave Ellis.
The Dave Ellis. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah,
you name it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Dave. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really do appreciate you, and all the best with the project. And yeah, just keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing some great things outside of music. Your hands are full. Your hands are full. Yeah, so keep on doing what you're doing. I pray strength. You're
Yeah,
definitely going to need some. Thanks
for
for
sure.
now.
Thank
God
you, my
bless
friend,
you.
and thank you for having me, my friend. It's always good to
And
talk.
please, yeah, as always, Dave, as always, please do thank your wife who played the part of engineer setting up for
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. I will
She
do
is
that.
a blessing. She is a
Yeah,
blessing. Tell her I said so.
I will do that. Absolutely. On many levels, she's a blessing.
She certainly is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. My guest on the program today was the Dave Ellis. Do go and get his album. It's called Not Waving But Drowning. Not Waving But Drowning. The Dave Ellis. Go get it. Download, stream it, do whatever you can, but get your hands on it. And let me remind you, if you did like today's program, and thank you for sticking through us through the glitches as well. If you did like today's interview, then maybe you would consider subscribing to the channel, like, share. We do like your comments. Please do that, and I will catch up with you again real soon. Grantley out. Take care.